welcome to all of you. It's great to be here. And last year we had the 10th anniversary of the Barcelona GSE, but this year is the 15th of the Trobada. Those are uncertain times, but in uncertain times, an economist, what does is looks if there is a dominant strategy, no matter what, and there is a dominant strategy no matter what, which is to do our job.
What I'm working on specifically is labor income dynamics in from different perspectives. There's a finite number of islands, which is in the spirit of Lucas Prescott island economy. And these islands are what I label occupations then. And in each island, or on each island, there's workers that are either employed or unemployed. Then importantly, workers accumulate human capital while they are working on a specific island. And this is only partly transferable. And the way I model this is that there's a human capital ladder that you gradually step up while you're working. And if you go to another island, then you step down some steps on that ladder. Interestingly, the model with these normal shocks gives you non-normal distributions of weight changes as a result. Okay?
This paper, as I said, is about shocks that migrant families, income shocks that migrant families experience through their migrants abroad in other countries, and how they deal with these shocks in their country of origin. I find that the Great Recession had large and heterogeneous effects on migration, labor supply, and the composition of families left behind in Vietnam. I find self-reinforcing migration flows among poor migrant households in the aftermath of the crisis, and this also has some implications for the selection of foreign migrants. So that basically reflects a trade-off between these two types of migration strategies, domestic and foreign, at the household of origin level in developing countries.
This is, I mentioned, it's a relatively unusual paper on marketing agencies in online and auctions. So we think of an agency as a set of bidders, and we assume that the agency, her objective is to maximize the total surplus of her coalition. You know, and this can be the underlying game, can be the GSP, the VCG, or whichever mechanism. And the way it works is that the agency proposes a vector of bids for its members, and these bids are going to be implemented only if they are stable in the following sense. So essentially, think of I make an offer. If the offer looks like it may work, then we implement it and we get the payoff.
Our motivation for the paper is that in trade and geography models, trade costs are everywhere, and we use them to rationalize a lot of things that we cannot rationalize with fundamentals, in particular differences in income across regions, differences in trade flows. We tend to load all these differences on these trade costs. So building on the current network in Spain, this is where you want to put the investment, okay? And in particular, what you see is that something that a lot of people have been claiming for a while is that the places where you want to build these infrastructure is clearly directly between Barcelona and Valencia, and also Barcelona to Bilbao, and certainly not to Madrid.
The idea is to basically provide key insights and, if you like, policy-making useful suggestions to the following four problems. One being prevention and prediction of conflict, another being the understanding and the improvement of macroeconomic policy, another being understanding the network structure of the economy. Actually, last talk was somehow related to this aspect we're thinking of here. Another one, which is very different from the above, actually, is understanding and measuring the public opinion. That's a very central question these days.
Well, high dimensional comes from the fact that we've got, again, these super long data matrices. We're measuring a very large number of variables, P, and the sample size N is small relative to P, okay? So statistically, it's a very hard problem because we want to learn about many things potentially, but the amount of information is limited. Right, so N is small. Apparently, deceivingly subtle decisions when doing your data analysis actually can affect quite a bit what you get out of it. So you know, that's where we believe we can bring in some value, hopefully, to you guys. Yeah.
I'm talking about civil wars, and they're serious humanitarian and economic problem. They're also very costly for the international community. So here's my model idea of how I would do that if, you know, we keep cooperating and we manage to do this. So countries have an underlying slow-moving risk, which has a structure. You could think of a Markov chain. And the conflict history you have from the country is going to provide you keys of where you probably are. And then all you need to do is basically you go to the next text, you query it, given the conflict history, and then you back out, with the Bayesian model, you back out the likelihood of conflict that you're in.
All right, so I would argue that given that policymakers exist in a very complex stochastic economy, we have very little data available to us to understand that. My actions in the economy are also going to have uncertain effects. In particular, when we are facing the most economic uncertainty. You know, within this environment, the ad hoc data extraction tools that are extremely influential in our own field are very interesting, but really need to be unpacked and refined if we want to ask the important questions that we care about as economists. But we're only going to get fully there if we can integrate data science with economic models, all right?